What's going on, guys? This is Logan with West Desert Shooter. Sitting here in front of me is an awesome array of components for something that I'm really excited to start doing, and that is reloading the 6mm ARC from Hornady. This should be a really fun one. So the 6mm ARC is an AR-15 cartridge, and it's designed to shoot long, high BC bullets. Really cool. It's a newer cartridge. It came out a couple years ago, right as COVID hit, and one thing that was really cool is that I was actually able to have an early release of a Uintah Precision rifle, and I was able to get like content out for you guys immediately. Now, I've only been shooting the factory 108 match ammo the entire time I've owned my rifle. So it will be really cool to see what other types of bullets that this thing likes. Now, for this class and this tiny little guy, you know, it's a pretty short little stubby guy. It's not super overbore because of the size of the cartridge and whatnot. If you don't know, it's based off the 220 Russian, so 6 ppc, case head size 7.6239, 6.5 Grindle, all share the same bolt face that this guy does. My gun currently is a bolt action Uintah Precision rifle. Now, the bolt action portion pins onto a standard AR-15 lower, so I'm restricted to the AR-15 magazine length, but I get to do a cheat. And that's one of the things that makes this cartridge in particular special, is they have gas gun data and then they have bolt gun data. Now, that's not particularly strange, but you get to push the pressures higher in the bolt gun data, and you get to take advantage of higher velocities and just a more capable long-range cartridge. But really looking forward to getting these reloaded and out on the range with them. So the powder type that this guy uses is kind of like very similar to 223 powders. So you can see all the powders that I currently have sitting behind me that would apply to this guy. We've got things from 4895, 322. I don't know if there's data for stay ball match on this guy. I'll look into it, but I put it up here anyway. CFE 223 is supposed to be a really good choice. Ram shot tack is on the lighter end of the bullets for it. N540, as far as I know, does not have data available. Now, the two places I know of to get data, I've got Hornady 11th edition manual, so this has bolt gun and gas gun all inside. And then on Hodgdon's website, Western Powders, they have a reloading manual there, and I believe it's under all the brand's names. So it's like you can go to ramshot.com and find the reloading data, or you can go to IMR or Hodgdon or whatever, it's all there. I haven't checked Alliance website. Maybe I ought to do that. But I know that Hornady covers Reloader 15 in their manual. And then we've got our favorite, you know, the Varget over there. Been shooting that stuff forever. What are some of the immediate bullet choices that we have here? So sitting in this black box are some blems, and these are Hornady 108 grain ELD match bullets. Now, I checked base to ogive on these, and they all came within, you know, a few thousandths, nothing scary. I shot some 123 6.5 bullets the other day for a video, and they were factory seconds bullets. And then after I shot the video, I checked base to ogive, and they were huge variations, and it was awful. And I'm not going to shoot those anymore because it's just not going to get me good results. But these looked pretty good, so you know, it's probably just cosmetic blems. There's like a little dull spot in the copper, so hopefully that's what these are. It's just not the most beautiful ammunition, but still passes all the other tech inspections, hopefully. All right, for the actual reloading dies, it's kind of funny. I am building a 7mm 08 rifle, and I ordered some dies from L.E. Wilson. They showed up, and they were beautiful, and they looked great, and they use a chamber type seating die that requires an arbor press. Well, if I'm going to invest that for the 708, I want to move that into other cartridges as well. I needed dies for the 6 ARC. That was really the only thing holding me back. I had all the other stuff, right? And I've been saving my brass as well. And yeah, so I picked up another set of L.E. Wilson before I ever even tried them. So I've already bought 2 sets. We're gonna, you know, hopefully make some really nice ammo. These dies are incredibly well machined. They're really pretty. They're really well laser engraved. Everything on these is just giving me, you know, the warm fuzzy feeling inside. They look fantastic, and I don't doubt at all that these will perform really well. I really like this style and the concept behind these seating dies. So I guess we have some brass here. I don't know if it'll fit unsized, but it's a chamber type. So the brass slides up in there, and what you're going to do is you will take, you know, a loaded case of powder, set it down here, The base has a little hole drilled in it so that your primer won't make any contact as you put some pressure on the round when you seat a bullet. So pretend this has some powder in it, you set your bullet on top, and then you will slip this guy over the top of your brass, and as you set that down, the bullet will kick this guy up, and this is all adjustable. It's a micrometer seating top on this, and then your arbor press just comes down and gives that a little push and seats it all the way down to where you set up your die to stop, right? So pretty cool. Most other, I guess all my other seating dies have all been just mounted to my standard reloading press. So this is something new, and I like that the weight of the lower die sits on the case and it holds it completely straight up and down, or at least to the machining tolerances of this thing. And then the tolerances for where the bullet seating stem go in are very straight and in line with each other. So hopefully we're going to get really good straight ammo coming out of here, and a very low, or I guess really good concentricity. Low run out would be what I was looking to say. So really looking forward to trying these dies out, and it turns out we're going to try it first in 6 ARC and not 708 because my rifle's still at the gunsmith. So as far as the sizing die, L.E. Wilson yet again, 6mm ARC here. Now these guys are bushing full length dies. We've got some extra parts here, little decapping pin and whatnot. One thing that makes these stand out from other dies that I have is these don't have an expander ball. It's just kind of a smooth mandrel, and I don't think it's anywhere near 243. So if you have like a kink in your case neck, you know, we'll see how well these straighten out. Hopefully just enough to get them to run through your bushing. And speaking of bushings, I've got a couple here, because if I'm ordering one, I'm going to order a couple just to make sure that I don't have to wait an extra week if I'm off 1,000th. So I went under a loaded round from Hornady, 2,000ths and 3,000ths. So hopefully we should get 2 to 3,000ths neck tension on our bullets there, and later on we can test these as well, see if there's a difference. But hopefully this is sufficient neck tension for our reloading here. Again, really well machined, and these guys still have their oil on them, so I'm gonna run them out in the garage in a minute, hit them with some brake cleaner and get them all cleaned up, and then we'll probably throw a little bit of lube down in here. But just really well machined. I can see the reflection down through the die, and really smooth machining there. Everything looks really, really good. Very excited about these, which is why I bought another set without having even tried the first ones. It's because just initial impressions, and you know, I trust these guys. They're making reloading dies. It's gonna work, right? So L.E. Wilson, very, very nice stuff. And they sent me a badass sticker when I ordered it direct from L.E. Wilson. Now, the second time I ordered off Midway USA. They had them in stock and ready to go. When I ordered them from L.E. direct, it took like 2 weeks to ship, which is fine. You know, they made them to order. That's all good. My rifle's at the gunsmith anyway. I now have the dies, and I still don't have my rifle, so that didn't hurt at all. But if you're in a rush, maybe check out Midway. I don't know if Brownells carries these guys, but I'm sure there's other places as well you can get them, but you know, Midway's huge. Got a case length modified gauge. I've got some theories on this, because I bought one of the Hornady ones and not my own fired brass converted, but if it's based off of headspace, you should be able to measure base to datum line on this guy and measure base to datum on a fired piece of brass, come up with a difference and add that, you know, 4,000ths to your total overall length that you find. You know, so if you do that, you should be able to get around the whole has to be fired in your chamber idea. I've never bought a case gauge before. I had all my other ones converted by Uintah Precision, and not that I couldn't have done it. I'm just curious if I could come up with the same numbers by doing that. So there we go. There's our layout here. I need to go get these dies, you know, de-oiled and ready to resize, and then we're gonna go hit the reloading press, and we're gonna get some brass prepped up. We're probably gonna load up we're gonna go with a powder and a bullet tonight, and then hopefully my powder shows up in the next few days like it's supposed to, and we will do another powder with another bullet, and then we'll go hit the range. So for me, this is going to take, you know, a little over a week. For you guys, packed into a nice, neat little video. All right, so one of the first things we need to do is find our headspace. I need to tweak my plate there. All right. So I just put a universal decapping die in here, and then we're just gonna knock out 4 primers. And then we're gonna get an average headspace on these. They should be all very, very close because it's all been the same gun. It's all been the same type of ammo, same type of brass. All right, so we got our caliper zeroed out using the Hornady headspace comparator, and it is the B350. I believe that is what Hornady specs for the 6mm ARC. I saw that on a Facebook group earlier. So 1.185, nice easy number to remember. 1.185. So it looks like that's our fired brass headspace, 1.185. One weird thing I've noticed on the 6mm ARC ammo is some of these have a silver primer and some of them have a brass color primer. So at some point Hornady changed something. 1.185 and a half, perfect, right where we want to be. So we need to resize these, and we're going to bump them 2/1000ths. It's a bolt gun, but 2/1000ths is good. So now we got to put in our new die, and we got to go get our brass lubed up. So let's go ahead and run out in the garage and lube up our brass before we keep moving on. All right, I just read something extremely interesting on the L.E. Wilson bushings. So they are marked. There's a little ring on here as well, and it's marked up here what the diameter of the bushing is. They want you to install this bushing into the die where the number faces up towards the top of the die. So if you took out that top screw-in portion, the decapping assembly, you would be able to read the number as you look down in there. Now, in their instructions, they say make sure and do that because this is actually a tapered bushing, and they say that the case neck only reaches halfway up in here, and the measurement on there is the middle of that taper. And if you want added neck tension, you can actually flip this over to get increased neck tension on work hardened brass if it's getting a lot of spring back. So something very cool there. I did not realize that at the time. Be sure to always read your instructions. But the reason I was reading those is because I wanted to make sure I knew how they wanted me to set this up. And just like most resizing dies, they want you to go down and make contact with the shell holder, and then we're just gonna adjust from there because that's what they tell us to do. Okay, got our case here. It is lubed up. Got Hornady one shot on the case, Hornady one shot in the die, brand new die. Let's go nice and slow, see how things feel. Okay, so good news is we got our decapping pin to kick out that primer, so perfect there. And then also, I definitely feel like we reached the bottom of the press stroke. You got to be careful on your first run because if that decapping pin is too low, it's going to be smashing into the bottom of the brass and causing you inconsistencies and weird issues. So if you're not getting a resize at all, that could be why. So let's pull this guy back out and let's take a look at it. 1.186. So we're going to set this guy off to the side. I would guess this guy's going to come out the same size. So 1.185 is our starting number. I did not feel it touch the shoulder. On my press, I usually have a pretty good feel for being able to tell if it's moving the shoulder or not. 1.185. Well, like I said, it's not going to move. Going for 2/1000, so just tiny little movements here. Again, another piece of brass that we decap. We're not resizing the same piece of brass over and over. We're moving on to different ones, but I want to make sure we check our headspace before we start. 1.185. And I bet this is 1.183 and a half. I don't know if I felt it touch the shoulder on that one either. Maybe just at the end. 1.183 and a half. Wow, as if I know what I'm doing. Okay, very, very nice. So we're gonna run a few pieces through here and make sure that it's consistent. And then don't forget to redo the brasses that we did not get to the correct size. So yeah. All right, so if we take a piece of our resized brass, let's check out our case neck. So 268, I don't remember if this bushing's a 266 or a 267, but 268 most of the way around here, 267 and a half sometimes, that'll happen. Now let's take a loaded round, and I threw a bullet in one of these with our seating die real quick to make a dummy round. And if we look at this, was 268, now 270 and a half, so 2.5 thou neck tension. 2/1000 neck tension, just depends where you're measuring from. but yeah, right where we want to be. And I believe we have one bushing smaller than this as well. So if we need to bump it up to 3,000ths, we've got it. And right there, we've got a little 6mm ARC dummy round. Looks pretty good with that 105 AMAX in there. All right, guys, time to get priming on this brass. Now, I full length and sized it on the video, and then I chambered some of these resized pieces into my rifle chamber. And obviously it's just a piece of brass, nothing dangerous there. So when I was doing that, it was a little snug. I took the decapping assembly out of the top of the die, and then that also just left the bushing free to just move up when it was under any amount of pressure. So basically turned it into a body die, and I just moved the shoulder back another 2,000ths. I readjusted my die and reset it. So now with the new setting, what is really funny is that I checked the case length gauge from Hornady, the one that's all drilled out, and the headspace is now exactly the same as this guy. And that was just by, you know, feeling what my chamber wanted versus what that is. And overall, it ended up feeling really good. So I do think the chamber on my gun is pretty tight on headspace. So, you know, depending on which gun you have and who made it, your headspace is going to vary a little bit. So got this guy resized down to where it feels good in the chamber. We only worked our necks once, and then we bumped our shoulders, ended up doing it twice. But since it's only once fired, shouldn't be a big deal. And we weren't doing a ton of work, just barely moving that shoulder a couple thousandths. Now I've got some primers. I've got some Federal Premium. These are small rifle match. These are not AR match primers. So this is kind of a note for myself. I only have a couple hundred of these at this time. So, you know, whatever load workup I do here, if I see a difference in the future, maybe it's the primers if I'm no longer using the match rifle instead of AR. So, grab these guys, grab our Frankfurt Arsenal hand priming tool. And like I mentioned on the dies there, it's pretty cool that I could turn that into a body die as needed. Shell holder from Frankfurt Arsenal for 6 ppc, which is the same as this guy. They recommend shell holder number 12, so that's what I grabbed. Perfect. And then the priming tool here has an adjustable by the thousandths dial here. And so I can adjust the depth that it will seat the primer. And I actually used a dummy round to set this up. And let me explain what I did there. I took a factory piece of ammo, and then I pushed up the priming arm until it pushed up against the primer. Now I never applied much pressure, I never tried to seat it any deeper, but I kept backing it out until it was no longer snug in there. It had just a little bit of wiggle room, and then I pushed it back up in until where it held it completely in place, and then I went 1,000th extra. So I've never done that before. That was kind of funny. So that's something new I'm trying there. So that guy's primed. We're gonna work our way through the rest of these primers. Let's talk about the powder and bullet that we're going to be using for this first batch of ammo. I'm going to go with the Hornady 108 ELDs. I'm also going to use the loaded factory ammo here as a dummy round to set our overall length, which I believe I already did in our seating die. We're going to seat some in a minute and verify that those came out correct. I set this up and then I backed it off just a couple thousandths, so they should end up just a couple thousandths over what the factory ammo is. I figured that's a good place to start as far as overall length, and of course we'll check our reloading data. But outside of that, I'm going to try 6.5 stay-ball match. Hodgdon's website does have load data for that with the 6 ARC, so we're just going to verify that it has it for the 108 grain bullets, which it should. So we'll see you guys in a second. Going to throw some powder charges, still have to pick out which powder charges I'm going for, and then we're going to get to seating bullets, which I'm excited to do with this new inline chamber type seating die from L.E. Wilson. All right, before I start talking powder charges on this, I want to reiterate, while my rifle is a AR-15 platform, it is a true bolt action. So this thing has got a 3-lug bolt. This is not a modified bolt carrier or anything like that. This is a legit custom action that pins onto your lower of your AR-15. Uintah has complete rifles, and that's what mine is. So don't follow this data if you're shooting a semi-auto. I am fully intending on going over the 52,000 threshold, which the semi-autos are limited to. So let's start talking charges then. With stay ball match, because I'm using a bolt action, on Hodgdon Data's site, that's the only place I could find stay ball match load data, and it's for the 107 Sierras, but the 108 ELDs will be very similar. So it's a good starting point for us. They only go up to 52,000 PSI and a maximum of 27 grains even. So we are going to exceed that, and our max charge is going to be 28 grains, and we're going to go down in 3/10 increments across 5 shots, or across 5 groups. So as far as overall length goes, Hornady's manual inside their book suggests 2.245 on the 108s with the 6 arc. However, with their factory ammo, most of the stuff I'm finding is 2.250. So we got our 108s, we got our stay ball match, brass is primed, we got our factory ammo to copy, we've got our custom bolt action. Now we've got some powder charges to choose, got some powder charges chosen. So let's get to it and start filling up some of these cases. Now, one thing I definitely want to give credit to is the stay ball line of powders and how consistent they get thrown out of my RCBS Chargemaster. But not only that, they are very low static. So it doesn't end up, you know, getting stuck to your pan and whatnot, or getting stuck to the little load cell tray there. It doesn't get stuck inside your hopper. It's all super consistent and not static. Whereas Ramshot tack is very static and it likes to stick to different things, and you really got to like beat on your little powder tray here to get all of it out. So here we go, starting things off with 26.8 grains. Always give it a few taps anyway, that's just out of habit. So yeah, here in a second we're going to be seating bullets on top, and we're going to have our first 6 arc loaded rounds. All right, so we've got our first charge of 26.8 grains, case fill, not a problem at all. So let's go ahead and grab our brass, loaded with powder, set that guy right there. And luckily with these 108s, they have a nice boat tail, so it helps them just sit down in the case like this. And then we're just gonna go ahead and drop this chamber type seeder right over the brass. Now right here, the bullet is going to touch the seating stem in this die, and so the top portion of the die is going to stand up. So now the brass is completely chambered by this lower portion of the die, and we need to seat our bullet this far down. So we've got our arbor press here, it's just got a little press lever on the side. We're gonna go ahead and cycle this guy down. Good amount of neck tension on that one. Now we pull the whole die out. We pull our loaded round out of the bottom. There we go, it's all loaded up. Let's take our calipers and take some comparisons here. So this is also micrometer adjusted as well. So whatever we end up off here, we can just use the micrometer and really nail it on home there. So 1.694, we can go ahead and just zero this guy, and that will simplify what we need to do. And then we've got, oh, it is on the money, 1/1000th too short compared to factory ammo. I don't even want to mess with it, truthfully. I think we're right where we want to be. So this guy is the factory ammo, and then this guy is my own reload. You can tell because it has a silver primer, and then you get the resizing marks on there as well. So our first round of 6 ARC, pretty neat. Definitely excited to get this guy out on the range. Let's put our factory ammo away so we don't get anything mixed up, and then we're going to return this back to where it was on the reloading tray, and we will label these. We'll probably do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the stay ball match. All right, so if I'm not talking the whole time, let's see how this goes. And you saw there the bullet was not perfectly straight in that, but the chambered seating die should have straightened it out for us. There we go. These do get just a little bit, not stuck, but you can feel it in there. So this guy was 2,500 shorter. Could be variations in the ogive on these bullets. Let's quickly check our overall length, because I cannot exceed 2.260. 2.245, right where Hornady wanted us in the reloading manual anyway. So one thing I've noticed that that brass getting stuck inside the die where I have to pull it out with my fingernails. If you just do this instead, seat it and then just bump the top, it'll pop right out. Usually if you do it the right amount, it'll pop right out on the first try. And it turned out I could do it anytime. There we go. So this, as you can see here, is a K&M Precision Shooting Products part, K&M. I believe I got this guy on Midway. I think Sinclair also offers one. There's a few other brands out there. This one was in stock when I was looking for one. I think it was just over $100. It was like 110 to 130, something like that. So I picked one of these up, like I mentioned, for these dies, and I decided, I don't want to dedicate this entire cost to just one cartridge. So in the future, depending on how this stuff shoots, like I will probably continue on with the trend of picking up some L.E. Wilson dies, or even other Arbor Press seating dies. Try a few out, see how they go. Now I paid for these guys. These are all out of my pocket, but I just want to talk about these just a little bit more. So you've got two different types of adjustment on this guy, and then you've got two locking Allens here. So since we're going to deal with a different bullet anyway, let's go ahead and unlock it. Which half the time I didn't have that locked, and I was like, oh crap, has it been moving? I just checked every loaded round. They're all within 0.002 of each other. And that's probably because that's a blend box of bullets, and there's just a little variation in ogive. So in the top here, you've got a adjustable seating stem. This is your actual seating stem, and essentially that threads in and out of this top collar here. And then down below, you've got your micrometer adjuster, where that adjusts how far down this goes to contact. So if you spin this like way down, see how that sits up now? And then it will drop down further in there. This is a very tight fit between the seating stem. That's exactly what that little guy in here is your seating stem. And L.E. Wilson does have a couple different seating stems. They have VLDs or standard for whatever type of bullets that you're shooting. I got both for my 7mm seating die. I don't know exactly which one is in the arc. I would guess that they were, sharp enough to put the VLD seating stem in a 6 arc die. So why don't we pull the seating stem out? And it's literally just that easy. You pull it out the top. Be very careful when you put that back in there. And I probably ought to put just a dab of oil on there. So with the 108s, no, that's not a great fit. I wonder if that's more of their standard seating stem. So yeah. Looking at the loaded ammo, I don't see any kind of dings or anything at all. I don't want to pull too many out because they're not labeled yet, but I don't see anything on the nose of the bullet. They all seated pretty reasonably consistently. I don't have a pressure gauge on this one. You can get a hydraulic pressure gauge for how much pressure you're putting down to seat your bullets, and you can compare that. It was an option when I bought it. I don't know that I really care to do that. Just being honest here. So yeah, there's your micrometer adjuster. You can back that guy out. And to set up to a dummy round here, or I guess we could use an actual dummy round with the 105. You just set that guy in there. And if you want your overall length to be the exact length of the dummy round, you drop it on there. We'll see how the top seating stem portion got pushed up by the bullet. Well, now we just take our micrometer adjuster and go up until it contacts the upper collar, lock that in place, and now when you seat something down to where the upper collar contacts the top shoulder of the die, there you go, you get the same overall length. That's what I did on the factory ammo, and we were within, a couple thousandths, 1 or 2, and I had adjusted out 2 thousandths, I think, and it put us right within like 1,000th of what the loaded round was against the factory ammo, so it worked out really good. These things are pretty cool, enjoying them so far. The Arbor Press is neat, and I like having it over here. And yeah, had a good experience with it so far. Really excited to get using it on my 708 with that whole project. That's going to be an American Rifle Company Action 7mm 08 custom barrel, full custom rifle, and we're going to be doing lots of reloading and shooting with that. So if that sounds interesting, get subscribed because I've got a bunch of content coming on that. All right, good morning, guys. We are out here. It is 6:58 a.m. Been out here. I already shot a 3-shot group and got everything set up. 6mm ARC reloads. These are my first ones, as you guys know. We're going to start out with our Stay-Ball Match reloaded rounds. And then off camera, I loaded up CFE 223 with the 108 ELD, same overall length, all that. And both of them we pushed up to bolt gun pressures. So there's a chance we could run into pressure today. We're going to be running these things pretty spicy right out the gate. I just want to see what these can do and see how they compare against factory ammo. The gun was scrubbed completely clean. I have a bore scope and I made sure I got everything out of here. I just shot factory ammo, 3-round group,
So I shot 1 round to zero the rifle because this is the first time. This Tract Toric Ultra HD. This one's the 4-25. This is a new scope from Tract. This was on my Valkyrie and I just moved it over to the Arc for this test. Anyway, the rifle was completely clean. I had to get it zeroed. I shot 1 bullet and then I made the correction, which the track tracked perfectly, and I shot a 3-shot group into 1/2 inch, like easily. So already looking really promising today. Hopefully that trend will continue, and we had a really good SD on this factory match ammo of the 3 shots, SD of 6. So we've got our work cut out for us. That match ammo is no joke. We've got some Amend 2 magazines. These ones, I don't know if I have an exact model. Okay, it says for 6.5 Grendel, but we're using these for 6 ARC. These are a single stack 10 rounder, which is kind of interesting. But outside that, we've got our long shot precision grip here, which gives us a 90-degree angle to our, gives us a nice thumb shelf, 90-degree angle to the trigger so that the finger pad sits perfectly 90 to that trigger. The trigger is the Uintah Precision Vitrum trigger, which is really, really nice. AR drop-in trigger, really high quality. So check out Uintah Precision. They've always got new stuff rolling out. Up top, we've got our awesome bubble level. This is by MK Machining. Laser engraved with a vertical line so you know exactly where level is, low profile so it fits between your scope and your mount, and all sorts of goodness like that. Let's get to it, guys. Let's shoot some groups. I'm going to shoot 2 groups in a row between letting the rifle cool. So we're going to shoot charge 1 and 2 and then let the rifle cool down. First shot 24.41, stay ball match 26.8 grains. So we've got some catching up to do to get the factory ammo. Man, the recoil on this is so smooth and easy to shoot. Just fun cartridges out of the AR-15s. I always like the AR-15 size stuff. Uh-oh. Ruined it with our last shot. I am starting to get mirage on the suppressor, and I kind of tried to fight through that. I wonder if I ruined it by doing that. So, average 2409, SD 18.7. Alright, charge 2. Let's not do anything stupid like last time. Alright guys, this thing's definitely wanting to shoot today, so that's pretty awesome. Let's go give the rifle a break, and then we'll come back for charges 3 and 4. Got a bit of a tailwind that just picked up, and this range has a lot of like little hills and stuff along the way, so wind could really have vertical as well as left or right, so hopefully that doesn't mess with us too bad. Luckily these high BC 6mm should fight that off pretty well, especially at 100, but it's hard to shoot really small groups in odd wind. You guys might notice the change in the bipod up front, not the MDT Skypod. This is the MDT ground pod. Got carbon fiber legs. It's their more affordable price point bipod, still very nice, and I'm really liking it so far. The fit and finish is great, and it's got the Arca mount as well as an M-LOK mount and a Picatinny mount available. They have one with an anodized green metal base, and then I chose to go with black just for my rifles. So sweet little bipod here. I like the rubber feet. It grabs onto this metal IPSC much better than my MDT Skypod ever would. That thing would be like on ice skates out there. All right, finally got a decent SD. Average 2486, an SD of 9.2. So the first charges here are the more conservative out of the two different powders that I've loaded up. There's a little more room on the stay ball match to go. All right, average 2508, SD 10.6. Just a super fun rifle to shoot, like easy to shoot groups with. All these trigger pulls feel great. The trigger in the rifle feels good. The long shot precision grip here working out great. This is the same company that makes the adjustable bag rider that I used on my 3,000 yard Tika build, and they make some really cool products. And this also has like a modular thumb shelf that you can change out. The thumb shelf is also what adjusts like how wide your reach to the trigger is. So good stuff all around. So I just went down and reset my target camera, hanging out for a minute, and on my way back, man, I saw like a 4-inch long scorpion. That's a pretty rare sighting out here. It wasn't black. It was one of those ones that would light up under black light, because I don't think we have those big ass black ones here in southern Utah, at least to my knowledge. I've had a few people ask me through the years, like, if I see snakes a lot, but for the most part, rattlesnakes like to just kind of stay hidden, stay away from everybody. And then I've seen a few tarantulas, which is pretty cool as well. Those are very rare as well, from what I've seen. But first time coming across a big-ass scorpion, and I'm glad I saw him first. Top charge, 28 grains here with stay ball match and the 108 ELD. Looks like we're probably going to get to like 2540 FPS, and the factory is 2736. So maybe this powder just isn't quite right for this cartridge for this bullet weight. But, you know, had to shoot and find out, right? It's good that we're on the low side of the data rather than too hot to start with. So this is a good way to get a feel for it. Yeah, good looking 4-shot group. I could continue on and push the pressure up in this, but we'll see how CFE 223 compares. Average velocity 2553, SD of 10.5. That's going to finish things out for our stay ball match. Overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Velocity wasn't quite as consistent as I'd like, but pretty decent on the last 4. Moving on to charge A of CFE 223, which is 29.3 grains. Again, this is bolt action data, so if you got a gas gun, you know, look up your own loads. Average 2701, SD of an ugly 24.2. What happened there? First shot 2670, the next shot 2721, 2727, 2705, and I went back down to 2678. So yeah, not happy right there on that powder charge. All right, guys, charge B of CFE 223, 29.6 grains. Gonna keep our eyes open for signs of pressure. All right, let's read these velocities off because it's worth it. 2708, 2706, 2710, 2706, 2712 for an average of 2708 with an SD of 2.6. Very, very nice. Just so funny in reloading, man. The one before this had an SD of 24 grains and velocities are all over the place. and then it fires off an SD of 2.6. Here we go with 29.9 grains on charge C. Okay, that was not a good trigger pull. Yeah, that was weird. That was a real flyer. Also, our velocity had a big jump. 2720, 2720, and then 2750. So something was off on that. Okay. Another side note before we get shooting again is this Huxworks 762 titanium really sounds good with this 6 arc. Got no ear pro on with the bolt gun, and like doesn't bother me at all. Sounds really good actually. So all right guys, our velocity's been kind of stagnant. I don't know if we're gonna get up to that 2736. If we do, it should have been freaking charge B, but we'll see what happens here on charge D. I'm curious if we're gonna see like a big spike in velocity on the last 2 groups, or if they're just gonna stay slowly gaining like they have been. Okay, those all felt really, really good. One thing I want to note, I wrote down on my notebook here, is that all of these charges are compressed with the 108s at this magazine length. So I think the restriction on CFE, truthfully, is just case capacity. Final shot, CFE 223, charge E at 30.5 grains. 1/10 under max load posted from Hornady. Finishing out 2783 SD 12.1. Got some things to talk about here.
All right guys, here we are back at the reloading bench. It's time to talk about our groups, but I also want to mention a few things on what we're going to work on next. I've already got parts 2 and 3 in the works, and we're going to be working towards that. But first, we need to mention that the Hornady ammunition is really good. It's fast and it's accurate, and it's actually not, I mean, the first 2 powders I tried, it's not easily matched, especially in speed or accuracy together. So we've got our work cut out for us with the Hornady 108 match, which is fun. This is what makes it a challenge, right? So overall, CFE 223, we basically just run out of room in the case. I don't think it's a pressure issue so much as just, you know, you can't put any more powder than will fit in there. Stay ball match, because we didn't have actual bolt gun data, we only went 1 grain over the published Hodgdon data max of 27 grains. So we went up to 28 grains. I think we could push this further and potentially get more speed, but again, not sure how much more room we have in the case. I know that all the CFE was getting compressed with what I had loaded up. So there you go. The next video we're going to be working on, I've got our next 2 powders because they showed up in the mail finally. Accurate 2520 and Hornady Lever Evolution. These 2 powders are kind of known in the 6ARC world for producing high velocities. These are both ball powders, so these will be ball powder 3 and 4. We're supposed to get good velocities. Really looking forward to trying these. Heard good things about both, but I've heard both of them can be temperature sensitive. So we shall see what happens there. As far as trying to fight temperature sensitivity, I want to come up with part 3, which is going to be Varget and Reloader 15. See how these stick powders compare against the ball powders. These are not going to match in velocities. That's fine. I want to see consistency and accuracy through these 2 guys. So if we can't get more consistent or more accurate ammo with these, they're off the table. It's fine. We've got more choices to try, but that's going to be part 3. Part 2 is going to be 2520 and Lever Evolution. And then let's get back to part 1 with CFE 223 and Stay Ball Match. Let's talk about our charges, velocities, and group sizes. So here on the screen, we've got Stay Ball Match starting things off. Charge 1, 26.8 grains, velocity of 2409, SD of 18.7, not what I'm looking for here. Group size of 1.07 inches. So just over an MOA to start things out. 27.1 grains, 2445 with an SD of 11.8. This is more in line with what I'm after with a half-inch group, so definitely not too bad. On that first group, we had that one flyer that was a little strange. Otherwise, I think it would have been very similar to group number 2. Charge number 3, 27.4 grains, 2486 at this point with a 9.2 SD. This is more of the consistency I'm after, and then a group size right around 1 inch. We're going to follow that up with 27.7, 2508 FPS with a 10.6 standard deviation, another group size at 0.9 inches, 0.94. So kind of consistently seeing just right around that inch mark. And then charge 5, 28 grains, which is 1 grain over the posted Hodgdon data. So this is made up. I don't know if this is safe in any other gas gun. Don't follow it. This is for bolt guns. We got up to 2553 with a 0.71 inch group. So the accuracy came back just a little bit, looked pretty decent. Stay-ball match, potentially in the future. We're going to push it harder, see what happens, but for now, that's not really part of the plan. We're going to see how the others compare right out of the gate. Now let's jump over to CFE 223. Again, this one is right up there with 2520 and Lever Revolution for popularity in velocities and trying to chase down that Hornady ammunition with its, let's see, with our factory 108 match, we shot 2736 feet per second. An SD of 6 across 3 shots, and those 3 shots went into a half inch on a perfectly clean barrel. I made 1 fouler shot, made the adjustment on the scope, and then got zeroed, shot 3 shots, and so it was a really clean barrel. We had 1 fouler and followed that with 3 shots, and it shot very accurately. So this rifle likes to shoot clean, and we'll take a look at our group sizes here towards the end and see if it likes to shoot dirtier. So I fired 50 rounds total for the day, and we'll see how this goes. So charge A with CFE 223, 29.3 grains. We got up to 2701 to start, so we were already 150 feet a second faster than our top charge of stay-ball match. So that's good to see that we had some velocity to start. We started off with a 0.95 group, nothing spectacular, nothing horrible. Charge B, 29.6 grains. I fully expected to go from 2701 up to 2730 here, and we moved up 7 feet per second. We went 2708 with an SD of 2.6, our best SD of the day. I was watching the chronograph under each shot and getting excited as it went on further, just hoping it wouldn't ruin it, and it held it all together on charge B with a group size of 0.79. Now on this rifle in particular, I was paying attention to the velocities. The first 2 would be real consistent and then would throw a fast third almost every time. And in the video, I actually call it out, but I edited that out. But it was really interesting to see that. Like, the trend is it would have a good SD across the first 2 shots within a few feet of a second of each other, and then it would just throw one that was like 20 to 30 feet a second faster, and then it'd go back down to where it was. So it would just ruin your SD. So not cool at all. But this 2.6 SD, because of what I'm saying here, I don't believe that this is a repeatable result. We could try it again in the future and see what happens, but overall, I think that we will just find that it's actually inconsistent. I think we just got lucky. Charge C, 29.9 grains CFE 223, 2729 FPS, so we're coming in just about 10 feet a second under the Hornady match ammo. And then I had a called flyer here, so this is for a 4-shot group, so it's going to skew our results a little bit. So it's not often that I call a pulled shot, but this one definitely was. My bipod was sliding around on my steel plate out there just a little bit, and it slid right before I pulled the trigger and just didn't quite feel right when that one went off. So that one, and it clearly is not part of a good group. So I'm going to call that one my fault. I'm sorry, I apologize. It happens occasionally. But the 4 shots went into 0.67 MOA. So not too bad, 11.3 SD on that. So still fairly consistent, pretty good with that. You can definitely shoot long range with that. And then moving up to charge D, 30.2 grains, 2733 FPS, so we moved up 4 feet a second, and with an SD of 13.2, that's pushing the edge of where I want to be, but if I could consistently get 13.2, I'm not mad about that. 1.25 group though, pretty ugly, definitely not what I'm looking for there. I want to shoot about half of that consistently. Charge E, top charge, 30.5, this is the most compressed of those 5, we finally got above our match ammo velocity at 2783 feet per second. So between charge D and E, we jumped 50 feet a second with similar SD of 12.1, and then another ugly group of 1.4. So I don't know if it's getting so high up there that the wheels are just kind of coming off. It's not happy having that much powder forced into it. Another concern I just realized kind of today was with this high compressed of a charge, on these last two, they shot the worst groups. Maybe a couple of them, the overall length changed on a couple rounds, and that would absolutely affect group size. So if they weren't consistent in length, then that could cause us issues as well. I did not bring my calipers out and measure overall length before we shot, but in a future trip, I can absolutely bring this arbor press and the seating die and check my overall lengths, and if anything's off, I can quickly seat it and then shoot it within like a minute of doing that, because that arbor press is highly mobile, and then the L.E. Wilson die works out great for being mobile. That's what a lot of the bench rest guys do. But there you go. That's what is going on with Stay Ball Match and CFE 223. Overall, Stay Ball Match is not fast enough at the charges we shot. We could try and bump it up to get my interest going, but CFE is definitely where we want to be. Unfortunately, the wheels kind of came off up on those top charges where we actually met that other velocity. What is interesting is that Hornady ammo shoots that fast, but shoots really good. But, I could give up 30 feet a second or 20 feet a second. I don't really care if I can consistently shoot that charge B. So, 29.6 grains, 2708 feet per second. So not far behind. A good small SD. Again, I think that was luck. But a decent group, I won't call that luck. And the charge up from that, 4 shots going into 0.67. The charge below at 0.95. So this range in here, 29.6, there could be something to it with CFE 223. We will find out in the future. But I'm pretty much going to wrap it up for this one. All of our brass looked pretty good, low to high. We got that tiny little bit of cratering on our primers. No big deal, nothing scary. And we followed the book, so that's my plan moving forward. With Lever Evolution and 2520, Varget and 15, we're going to go up to the Hornady bolt gun max and then back off in 3/10 increments across 5 different charges. We're going to shoot 5-shot groups. So after video number 2, we're going to be out of projectiles. I'm going to have to go and pick up another box. So that'll be a variable as well thrown in here. But overall, we're just seeing like Hornady max data and backing off 3/10 across 5 groups. How do these powders compare and what do they profile like? So for example, the Stay Ball Match doing those same increments, we changed our speed 150 feet a second, whereas CFE 223, we only went up 83 feet a second. So Stay Ball Match doubling the difference in velocity at the charges that we were shooting. So very interesting stuff there, and we're gonna continue to look at that. We're gonna come back and compare this data to the future data as well. And so for part 2, we're gonna compare it against the other ball powders. And in part 3, we're gonna compare our extruded powders against our ball powders all together. Should be fun, should collectively compound and grow of our knowledge on the 6ARC here in the bolt gun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I greatly appreciate you watching. Hit the affiliate links down below. Be sure to check out my friends over at Uintah Precision if you want an awesome bolt gun like this, or even semi-automatic AR-15 versions as well are available. You can get them in a super cool kit where you can have the same lower, same trigger, same precision stock, and then swap out your uppers. And you can go from like a 16-inch 223 Wild up to this 22-inch 6ARC, fully decked out, ready to rock long range. And then your 16-inch gun, you can do more home defense or also shoot at long range. I sure do, and it works out great. But yeah, friends at Tract Optics, I've not done a review on this new Tract Optics. This is the 4-25. Amazing magnification range. Super cool that they're able to accomplish that. And the internal adjustment on this is ridiculous. It's like 150 MOA equivalent. And off the top of my head, I apologize if I get this wrong, I want to say like 45 mils adjustment, 47, something like that. A ton of adjustment internally in this guy. So great for the long range cartridges, even the not long range cartridges like air rifles, 22, 223. With this available internal adjustment, you can shoot really far and just dial it into your scope, and it's no problem at all. Okay guys, I'm rambling on. We will see you in part 2. Excited to bring that to you. Probably going to throw a different cartridge in between these and just change it up a little bit. But I hope you're enjoying the Reloading and Results series here on West Desert Shooter. Be sure to get subscribed to catch all the future content. Thank you guys again. We'll see you in the next one.